Before we begin, do something small. Relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, grab a coffee, tea, water, anything. Sit back and just listen for a while. And if you enjoy these long-form explorations into how reality, the mind, and decision-making actually work, take a moment at some point to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share it with someone who enjoys thinking a little too deeply. Now, think of a decision you made recently. Choosing what to eat, clicking a video, pausing, or continuing. It felt deliberate. It felt intentional. It felt like you did it. But here's the unsettling part. By the time you became aware of that decision, your brain had already made it. And not milliseconds ago. Sometimes seconds. Sometimes longer. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If your brain decides before you know, then what exactly are you doing? Let's start with an experiment. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet asked people to perform a simple action: flex their wrist whenever they felt like it. No planning, no strategy, just whenever. At the same time, Libet measured brain activity. What he found was strange. A signal called the readiness potential appeared in the brain hundreds of milliseconds before participants reported the conscious intention to move. The brain prepared the action, then consciousness noticed, not the other way around. Which suggests that your feeling of deciding might be more like being informed. Now, this doesn't mean free will is dead, but it does mean free will is different than we imagine. Because most of what your brain does happens outside awareness. Your brain is an automation engine. It constantly evaluates options, weighs outcomes, predicts rewards, and suppresses alternatives without asking permission. Consciousness gets a summary, a press release. Now consider this. When you change your mind, what actually happened? Did you intervene, or did one neural process beat another to the finish line? Your brain runs competing simulations all the time. Thoughts are not commands, they're outputs, and the loudest output wins. Which means your experience of choosing is often the brain narrating a result after the fact. This isn't speculation. We can predict decisions before people know them. In modern experiments using fMRI and machine learning, researchers can predict which button someone will press several seconds before the person reports deciding. Seconds, not milliseconds. Which means the decision is forming long before awareness. Now pause, because this doesn't mean you're a puppet. It means agency doesn't work the way introspection suggests. You don't sit at a control panel issuing commands. You emerge from processes. Now think about habits. When you unlock your phone without thinking, when you take the same route home, when you open an app and suddenly 10 minutes are gone. You didn't choose that moment by moment. Your brain executed a script. Habits are decisions that have been compressed. They're cached, which makes them fast and energy efficient, and difficult to stop. This is why willpower is unreliable, because willpower isn't a resource you deploy, it's the outcome of neural competition. If one impulse has more momentum because of stress, fatigue, hunger, or context, it wins. Which means self-control is mostly environment control. Change the environment and behavior changes without effort. Now consider this. If I offer you two identical options, you'll struggle to choose. But add a third, worse option. Suddenly, one feels better. This is called the decoy effect. Your preference didn't exist beforehand. It was constructed on the spot. which means your brain doesn't consult a stable list of values. It assembles preferences dynamically, based on contrast, context, framing. Which implies something strange. You don't discover what you want, you invent it in real time. Now think about reasons. Why did you choose what you chose? Ask someone and they'll give an explanation, confidently. But those explanations are often wrong. In experiments, people justify choices they never actually made, choices secretly swapped without their knowledge. They don't notice, they rationalize. Which tells us something important. The brain is not only a decision maker, it's a storyteller. It explains outcomes after the fact to maintain coherence. This is called confabulation, and it's not a bug. It's how identity stays intact. Because a mind that constantly says, "I don't know why I did that," would feel unstable. So the brain fills in the blanks. Now zoom out. If decisions happen before awareness and reasons are constructed afterward, then consciousness might not be the driver. It might be the witness, or the narrator, or the editor. Now let's talk about attention. What you attend to changes decisions, but you don't fully control attention either. Your attention is captured by novelty, emotion, contrast, and threat. This is why notifications work, why bright colors work, why outrage spreads. Your brain prioritizes salience, not importance, which means many of your decisions are guided by what grabs you, not what matters. Now let's introduce emotion. Emotions are not irrational. They are fast evaluations, compressed judgments about value. Damage the emotional centers of the brain, and people become unable to make even simple decisions. They can analyze endlessly, but they can't choose, because choice requires valuation, and valuation is emotional. Which means logic alone doesn't decide, it advises. Emotion decides, and consciousness explains. Now here's where things get really uncomfortable. If decisions arise from neural processes you don't control, and those processes are shaped by genetics, upbringing, culture, sleep, nutrition, and randomness, then how responsible are you? This question terrifies people, but responsibility doesn't disappear. It shifts. It becomes less about blame and more about design. If behavior is predictable, it's influenceable, which means better systems create better outcomes. Punishment works poorly. Incentives, structure, and feedback work better. This is why good user interfaces feel intuitive. They align with how decisions actually happen, not how we wish they did. Now apply this to yourself. When you want to change a behavior, stop procrastinating, eat better, focus more. Effort alone fails. Because effort fights momentum. Systems redirect it. Reduce friction for good behaviors, increase friction for bad ones, and behavior changes without force. This is not weakness, it's realism. Now consider this. I am someone who. That sentence feels solid, but identity is also a prediction. Your brain predicts how someone like you behaves, and then nudges behavior to match. This is why labels stick, why habits reinforce self-image, why change feels uncomfortable. It violates prediction, which means identity is not fixed. It's a feedback loop. Change the loop, and the identity follows, not the other way around. Now let's revisit free will. If free will means uncaused cause, then no, there's no evidence for that. But if free will means the capacity of a system to reflect on itself and adjust future behavior, then yes, that exists. But it's slower. It operates by modifying predictions over time, not issuing instant commands. Which means freedom doesn't come in the moment of choice. It comes in shaping the conditions that produce future choices. Education, habits, environments, reflection. These don't control actions directly. They reshape the decision landscape. Now consider this strange thought. When you become aware of how decisions actually happen, your behavior changes. Not instantly, but gradually. Because awareness itself becomes input. The brain predicts differently when it knows it's being observed by itself. This is why mindfulness works, not because it